Hello, 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 hello. All right. So again, today what we're going to talk about, just for a brief minute, is where your music came from, because it kind of comes from the same place. Matter of fact, I can make the case. You want to take the challenge? Is you can give me any one of your artists, and I can ultimately trace it back through kind of the same corridor till we get to the same exact place. As long as you're talking about Western music, not talking about Beethoven and Mozart and things like that. So let's start our journey here back in West Africa. And in West Africa, wow, that's terrible. Looks a little like a fetus. What happened in West Africa that would have anything to do with the music that you guys listen to today? Yeah, that's also terrible. Yes.
Slave trade?
Yeah, okay, so we go back, let's say, we can go back, obviously, hundreds of years, but let's go back, we can go back 400 years. We can go back further than that if we wanted to, but that's plenty back, okay? So now, what happens is you get people from West Africa, and you get the slave trade, and the slave trade goes where?
Across the Atlantic.
Yeah, it goes here to the United States, it goes here to the Caribbean, El Caribe, and it goes to South America, right? So let's look for a second at the characteristics of West African music at that time, all right? If we look at West African music from that time period, we find that there are certain things that we can say is in all of it. Okay. Pause for a sec. This is called Osea, and it's a war chant from West Africa. Okay, so what do you notice about, just tell me some characteristics of this Oseye war chant. Yes.
Like one guy says something and then a bunch of other people like repeat what he says?
Great, yes. This is called call and response. Call and response, where one guy says something and lots of other people repeat what he says back to him. Yes, it has a call and a response. What else? Okay, maybe. What do you notice about the instruments?
They're all drums.
Yeah, lots of percussion. Lots of percussive sounds. Okay. What else? Yep.
Repeated lyrics.
Okay. So basically, if you listen to it, it's got what we call an AAB pattern, right? Where they repeat something, right? They'll say, A, A, B. A, A, B. Okay, so it's got what we call an AAB pattern where they repeat a set melodically, in this one even the words, and then they do it they do it once, they do it again, and then they do something completely different. Good. If you you'll have to take my word on it, but if you were to analyze this, you would also notice that they're using a 5-tone scale. Means they're only using a scale that uses 5 tones, whereas as opposed to Western European music, which used how many tones in their scale normally? Yeah?
16.
Nope.
12.
Nope. 7. Yeah, any major scale, minor scale, whatever, had 7 tones in it, and they would use that as their tonal center for everything they did. This uses a 5-tone scale. Okay. Now, what happens when? And record. Okay. Cool. All right. So what happens now is here's the this is a typical West African chant. Okay. So now, what happens is we have this slave trade thing happen, right? And so we come from West Africa, we come to the Americas, okay? And what happens now? Let's fast forward, 150 years. So now we started in the early 1600s. And now we're into the mid 1700s. Slave trade comes over. What happens, if you take a people out of their land, right? You can take away. What are some of the things that slave traders took away from West Africans? Yep. Their language. Absolutely. What else? You don't have to think too hard on that one. Yeah. The freedom, absolutely. What else?
They're like friends and family.
Friends and family, children, yep.
Religion and customs.
Yeah, they took away a lot of the religion and tried to replace it.
Kind of like the individuality of each country.
Yeah, they took away individuality.
Like different cultures.
Yeah, they took away, they took away their names, right? What they couldn't take away is they couldn't take away that which is inside of them, right? You can't take away someone's thoughts necessarily. You can't take away someone's song, right? It could get adapted because if I don't know my native language anymore, my song sounds a little bit different. But lo and behold, we get to what happens in the 1700s and 1800s in slavery, and we had what was called their form of music, which was the field holler. Okay, so you ever hear of a field holler? Field holler. No? Anybody ever heard of field holler? Yeah? What was a field holler back then? Connor?
It was the songs that slaves would sing while they were working in the fields.
Yeah. It was the songs that the slaves would sing while they were working in the fields. And again, you have to look at this as it descended from their ancestors' music, right? So if we look at, let's see if I can find one here for you. So what do you notice about the field holler there? What do you notice about the characteristics of the field holler? Yep,
It's still a call and response.
yep,
but
yep,
A little different.
yep. We still have call and response as a main staple, if you will. What else? Yep. It's still very percussive, right? Lots of times the percussiveness would be their tools, right? But it's still very percussive, very rhythmic still. Lots of rhythm. What else? You'll have to take my word on it again. But they're using the same 5 tones. What else?
Still has that AAB.
Still has the AAB. It's a little bit less obvious in this one, but it certainly is still there. Absolutely, the AAB. And we'll show you how that worked out later. Okay? So now, we got this field holler thing going on, right? And as we fast forward, again, the field holler, it was a way of communication. It was a way to talk about triumphs and tragedies. But it still followed the same basic thing. All right, now, we move forward a little bit, and we go to, let's say, slavery is ended. We'll fast forward about 100 years, a little bit more than 100 years, and slavery is ended. And what happens there historically? Slavery is ended, so what happened to all the slaves?
The, like, KKK and all the indentured servant stuff.
Yeah, I would say even before like KKK, you're talking about sharecroppers, right? And the sharecroppers were basically slaves, right? Because to me, one of the great indecencies of slavery, besides obviously the slavery part, was the fact that when they were freed, we didn't really have a plan at that point. So you take millions of people and just say, okay, you're free, now go and do something. But like they don't have any experience, they don't have any education. What are you going to do? You're going to go back to what you know. And for them, it was working in the fields. And so they ended up becoming basically slaves again, you know, and sharecropping. So, but at this point, slaves or former slaves, they now had access to an instrument, right? And so it's not just percussion. And there were lots of primitive models, right, to what we know it as today, right? What instrument did they have access to? Yeah, guitar, yeah, and lots of other kinds of string instruments. There was one instrument that they actually strung horsehair from the top of a barn to the bottom and kind of plucked it and twanged it like that. And there was all kinds of other, improvised, just kind of homemade instruments. But they had instruments. Now, as free people, finger quotes, right, they would get together in the evening and they would sing what are called spirituals. Oops. And this comes right from their the slave days. Okay, so now we got people singing these the work songs and the spirituals kind of go hand in hand. So here's a spiritual.
the matter, baby? Yeah, I can't see. Oh, what's got the matter?
There's a work song. How about a spiritual?
Still away. I ain't got long to stay here. This song is, which was composed in slavery when the black folks picked and chopped cotton in the hills of Georgia, Tennessee, and this song they sung for they steal away when they pray to their heavenly Father to free them from honor bondage. So this is a song that they sung. I hope y'all will enjoy it too because it means something to you. Steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away home. I got long to stay here.
Okay. What do you notice about the work songs and spirituals? Yeah?
The work songs still have the same call and response.
Call and response. Well, spiritual does too. It's just that he's responding to his own call, right? Steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away. It's the same thing. Call and response. He doesn't have a whole crew with him to respond. Still call and response. Yep.
Strings are added.
Okay, so now we have strings in the form of guitar. Notice how percussive the guitar still sounded, though. You know, it definitely had more of a harmony to it, more chords, but still pretty percussive sound to it. What else? Yeah?
They're pretty religious.
Yep. Now we got religious themes, right? And again, you're talking about religion, or you're talking about what with the work songs?
Freedom.
Freedom. You're talking about. They were talking about their situation, right? They feel pretty good about it.
Important thing is you must put everybody.
About their situation at that point, the work songs.
No, they were singing about how they just wanted a break.
Yeah, how they just wanted a break, man, right? So they're talking about, right? So religious themes, and they're talking about situational themes, right? Much like they did when they were doing the field hollers, right? What else? Trust me on this. 5-tone scale, still there. Hey. Anything else? Steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away. I ain't got time to stay here. AAB. Yeah. AAB. Okay. You notice that is starting to sound a little bit closer to the blues. Right? You notice how there's some similarities there between that spiritual and, let's say, this.
I went to the crossroads. Well,
response. What's he responding with at this point? Yeah, now he's responding with his guitar, right? Went down on the crossroads, and then he plays his guitar. Fell down on my knees, plays his guitar. Call, response. Call, response. Here's my A, my next A. If we do this right, this will be different. Okay? All right. So for the online class, we'll pick it up there next time and show you how these work songs and spirituals then became, went in all kinds of different directions, but still come kind of back to the same place and turned into things like blues and gospel and jazz and everything else. So that wraps it up for this week of the but I want to go